Here's another riveting episode in the OCG lecture series inspired by an unsolicited advice email I sent to a former colleague and friend this morning. Like a lot of people right now, she had been laid off in November. Her last role was head of product and tech at a growth stage startup. She has a decade of tech leadership experience. Earlier this week, she launched a new startup with a team from her prior company, and she mentioned that they were looking for investors. I think there are a lot of other people in a similar situation right now, where they're processing a recent layoff, maybe sitting on a decent severance and savings, and experiencing that it's a sign feeling telling them to join forces and start a new business. And that's great. Lemons and lemonade and all that. I sent my friend this advice, which I think is relevant for anyone launching a new startup, so I'm also going to share it with you good people. The number one thing by far is that sales is the answer to almost every startup problem. Sales, sales, sales. You cannot start selling too early. Revenue is survival, and revenue unlocks all of the other support options, including investment. Yes, the how do I sell before I have an MVP is the chicken and egg problem, and answering that is literally your million-dollar question. It's far from easy. But I think this is particularly important advice for a lot of people in this layoff situation, especially if you are a product tech builder versus business development, which leads me to my next key points. Second, building without an active sales process is a one-way ticket on the failure train. You really need to be talking to customers or near-term future customers while you're building. The Startup Owner's Manual is a great book about this. It focuses on getting to product market fit by a process called customer development, which was the foundation of the lean startup model, which has been rehashed in 100 other books. While customer development is intentionally not the same as sales, the OCG pro tip is that for people who are naturally builders, the more you can force yourself to see through the sales lens, the better. And now we have the awkward number 3. If your product experience has been on internal-facing products or on mature, established customer-facing products, it's about as similar to startup from zero product development for a product company as, say, a gecko is to a T-Rex. I realize that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's time someone tells you the truth. Both types of product management may involve being angry at Jira and spending time in a stand-up trying to figure out which developer smells like weed, but that's where the similarities end. For internally facing software, you have a captive audience. Barring something truly unusable, companies will force even highly unsatisfied employees to keep using their large investment custom software, which gives the team a ton of time to fix and patch until the yelling mostly subsides. With well-established high market share products, there's also a ton of leeway to get it wrong and still survive. A great example is how Microsoft's direct follow-up to Windows 95 was Microsoft fucking Bob. Over a decade after the Mac UX revolution, an actual product team in Microsoft said, "I still think these fuckers are too stupid to understand squares with their shit inside and buttons on top, so instead let's make it look like something familiar, such as an Agatha Christie murder scene den." And they built and launched it. This is back when you had to ship floppy disks, and they still made record profits that year. This is absolutely not how it works for a stage zero product company, where it is much, much harder. And finally, which is the why behind my emphasis on sales, most investors at every level have some sort of minimum annual recurring revenue threshold, below which they will never invest in your company. Never is an exaggeration, but it's the right word here. Hopefully you have a flawed moral compass and a wealthy uncle you caught cheating on Aunt Peggy with that one dude from Planet Fitness. In other words, a motivated investor network. But if that's not you, and you don't attend many San Jose orgies, you're probably going to have to fall back to the fundamentals. And the most fundamental question for any startup is, someone's buying this? My point here isn't to say people shouldn't launch a new company. I'm actually strongly in favor of it. But other than your grandmother, who, to be honest, has been on Team The World since you were 5 and put your shit-poking stick in a refrigerator, most of the people in your life are going to say, yeah, great, you can do it, even if they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Mainly because I never want you people crashing on my couch for just a few days until you work some shit out. You can trust that old coder guy will give it to you straight. So heads up, I'm working on an OCG book where I'll explore and expand on more long-form topics like this. Yes, I'll probably stick with electronics so you can leverage your deep TikTok thumb-flipping motor skills investment, and I'll make sure every third page is boobs or pus-squeezing photos to help minimize the TikTok-to-book content shock. Stick with old coder guy, and together we'll get your read a book this year New Year's resolution to maybe 30-ish% by September or so. Yes, we can. Fuck, awful.